Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on. Hello. Thanks for waking up and shining on with us. Shannon Shine here.
Hi, Shannon and Shine. Hello, everybody. It's a Selomon.
Yeah, we're grateful for all of you out there listening. If you're tuning in live, remember you can join us at thebringmetolife.com/podcasts with the number 2. And there's a chat there. And we'd love to hear from you. If you're checking this out on the replay, you can join us on Tuesdays at 8
chat's
p.m.
always open too.
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time. Celia likes getting chats too. The chats are always open. So, yeah, help us build the community there. Today, we're excited because we are on part 2 of a series. It's cool when we have series because we get a lot of ideas for things we can share through the week. And we've been getting questions and feedback from you, and we're grateful for that. You can do some of that at the Bring Me to Life community on Facebook.
That's a nice community there.
Yeah, it's building, and we like seeing more people join us there. So, yeah. And today, again, we're on part 2 of a discussion on divine relationships. Last week, we just kind of talked about what divine relationships kind of mean to us. And I think we gave a little bit of our backstory. And if not, we've definitely talked about that in many other podcasts. I had a few questions about our story, and I'm sure we'll touch on parts of it throughout the series. And it's a pretty magical story. So if you're new here and you're wondering who we are, we've been together for about 7 years, building our project and navigating the earthly realms. And it's been quite interesting.
Absolutely. It's always an interesting season on Earth. You know, in 2020, it didn't let us down, threw a lot of lemons at us. And, we got plenty of lemonade here.
Yeah, I'd say if you're in a relationship that you feel is divine and you're navigating it pretty well in these times, then you're doing better than a lot of people, because, 2020 was a challenge for a lot of people. So maybe you're freshly navigating, looking for new relationship, and you're wondering how to get that divine connection. And what we're going to share isn't for everybody. We're speaking from our own experiences here, but you can also put a lot of this information to relationships with others in many ways. It doesn't have to be like an intimate or romantic relationship. Divine relationship can mean many, many things, and navigating them is sometimes really hard.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot like navigating most things on Earth. There's ups and downs and twists and turns and up-de-doozies, and, that's why I think that Bruce Lee said be like water, because you kind of just mold to it, you go with the flow, and that's a big thing that I've learned is when you're in a relationship, sometimes you just gotta, roll with the flow, and I'm trying to be like very particular with how I say things.
I understand. It can be a touchy topic for a lot of people, especially right now with so many people looking for their soulmate or their twin flame or this divine connection. And really, I think it's about like allowing the right connection to come to you, whatever that means. And it doesn't have to look just like everyone else's experience either. And
definitely.
Once you find somebody that you want to navigate that kind of relationship with, it's definitely important to hold space to go with the flow, as you said, because things change, and sometimes they change really quick, and sometimes there's little tiny changes over long stretches of time that add up. And if you're not ready to navigate them with somebody, then it might not be the most divine connection for you, because that's how we grow, and that's how you let your partner grow too, is by holding space and being willing to go on the ride together.
Yeah. And, we have a picture. I'm not sure if it's what people see, but there's a picture of us where we're like out on a little river and we're like helping each other walk across it. And that's kind of how it is sometimes, where, we're all different. We all have emotions, and sometimes it's it's a thing to feel them and to process them. And sometimes, sometimes I get frustrated and I'm like, I just want to be frustrated for a minute, and so it's important that when, one person is frustrated, if the other isn't, if the other is maybe feeling a little bit better, trying to hold the other person's hand and walk them across that, that river that's just flooding.
Yeah, I heard I heard somebody once say, I think, that a divine or like a steady relationship is when one person can stay grounded while the other one's having a meltdown, and that you navigate the meltdowns in a very balanced way. And I think that that's something we've been able to do for each other. I can honestly say I've had definitely some more of the meltdowns, but you have a way of navigating them that I've never had with any other partner. And that's helped me grow so much and be able to kind of look back in that mirror too and be more grounded on a day that, you're more frustrated at the world or whatever's happening around you. And it's kind of been a little challenge to show up and to, if you, like you said, if you're the one that's in a better place while your divine partner is having a meltdown, kind of challenge yourself to just be there and hold space in whatever way that means, to let the healing happen. Sometimes someone needs somebody to talk. Sometimes they literally just need to be alone, and being able to know when that time is important too. And I learn a little bit more each time.
Yeah. It's so touchy because sometimes, like, I'll walk away and you'll come follow me, and sometimes it's like that actually helped me because maybe I needed to say something. But then, it's weird because sometimes you do just need to be alone and to like yell and to scream, because for me, I feel these emotions and I've oftentimes grown up holding on to them and letting them build up, without releasing them. So it takes me a while to find a release. And, sometimes I'll like go outside and I'll yell at the top of my lungs. And I know early on that would like really upset you. And then I would come back and feel fine, and then you'd be upset. So, it's an interesting puzzle trying to like find how to, honor yourself, honor your feelings.
I think that's where communication is really key in finding out what a person's boundaries are and what their triggers are. Because you quickly learned that like yelling or like the movement of powerful energy is super triggering for me. So now when you need to release in that way, because that's how you release like pent up frustration, you find a way to do it safely where it doesn't like blast my energy orb, my aura to a different level. So like when you're in a divine relationship, you have to have a certain sense of vulnerability to discuss what's really on your mind without just resorting to anger. And that's one of the reasons I used to follow you around until you would talk, because it was ingrained in me early on that a lot of times people won't talk about what they're really feeling unless somebody almost makes them, or like really, really, really makes it known that they want to talk about the emotional stuff, because it is vulnerable. And it's hard to be vulnerable unless you feel super safe with someone. So it's like, if you're mad at somebody and they're following you around still, even though you're being angry and they just want to know what's wrong, then I feel like you said, I held that space for you to be like, okay, she actually does care what I'm feeling. Even if I'm angry at her, she just wants to know so that she can hold space for it. And that was my goal.
Well, it makes a difference if you are that person who follows the other person. It makes a difference when you do it with more kindness and compassion, like going to be like with the intent to honor whatever they are feeling, no matter what it is, and just holding compassionate space for them rather than like getting angry with them and like yelling back at them. And it's the thing that I've definitely learned to, channel through in a more productive, loving way. But it definitely helped. If you would have came at me, like if I would have walked away in a conversation mad and frustrated, and if you would have followed me mad and frustrated too, I literally would have just blown up and not known what to do. Like it would almost been like being cornered, like you're a scared cat and you're cornered. So just coming at it with a loving, compassionate mindset no matter like if I'm like, I'm so frustrated, and then another person's like, it's okay, you can be frustrated, I just want to be here for you and blah blah blah. That's different than being like, you can't be frustrated because blah blah blah.
Right. Like you have to make that safe space, and it's important to have safe space, because something I was taught too early on is like, you don't want to let somebody leave mad at you if you are wanting to hold space for the healing and the growth. Like sometimes, there's toxic relationships and you're like, that person's mad, and you know that you both might be right in your own ways, or maybe you really are right and that person's being toxic, and there's different ways to handle certain situations. But more often than not, there doesn't need to be anger. There needs to be a discussion and a communication between partners on how you can show up for each other. And sometimes somebody's mad and you think they're mad at you, but really they're just having a rough day. And if there's not a communication there, you can take it personally and hold a grudge, and your energy just becomes off. And it's hard to have like an intimate relationship with someone when you can't communicate what's really on your mind. So if you can communicate with anything but anger, and sometimes that's hard too, because, that means a lot of people have to face a sadness or something that makes them, again, vulnerable. And anger is easy to have, but being vulnerable takes a lot more work and divinity to connect with yourself and like the source of your feelings, and to show that to somebody else and let them know what's triggering you. Like, I don't even like certain knocks and like pounds, and used to like drum and clap on everything. Like there were certain times
I would
like
go around, and I love clapping. Like I just love it. So I go around and I clap, 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 clap. Shannon's like, at first you're just like, stop clapping.
Well, yeah, because when I was a kid, like I was always being like rushed, and people would clap at me like, come on, come on, come on. And I'd be like, please stop. So like you'd clap when you were happy, and it
clap, clap, clap.
It just triggered me, and it was like, you're happy, and that just makes me angry. So like by me communicating that to you though, you've changed it. And sometimes I'll see you now, you'll like clap and you'll look, and it's not that I changed you. And I've
like,
become
wait a second. Oh,
and I've
okay?
become more open to
okay?
it though, because you witnessed why it upset me, and then it didn't seem to upset me as much anymore because I felt witnessed and heard, and it gave me the opportunity to reprogram that trigger in my mind.
Yeah, gentle claps you are okay with now. So, that's one thing that is like holding space for growth, is I was able to understand that it gave you trauma. I didn't get upset because I couldn't clap anymore, just go to freaking outside and clap or something, but eventually, you did kind of calm down a little bit to it. And, slowly through the time spent together, you've become more open to me, being a considerate clapper. Right.
And I think that we're just using this as an example too for triggers, because, there's so many triggers that happen in relationships. Like some people have triggers over things like social media, like if their partner likes another person's picture or something, and somebody just instantly gets triggered and angry at the other one. And it's like, well, can you hold a space for communication and be like, okay, why does it upset you if somebody, likes somebody else's picture or comments in support of them? Like, is there a fear that, that you're not being honored or respected in your boundaries? Have you had the discussion about boundaries? Like, is that person a threat to you? Do you not feel like there's like enough, like there's got to be a communication there? And I brought that up because that seems to be like such a big thing in a lot of relationships, is like, there's not communication and boundaries with how you want to be respected.
Yeah. Growing up in this society, I feel like the relationships, at least that I've witnessed, it's like, you don't talk about boundaries, which is interesting. Like, you just assume that every relationship is going to be the same. Like, every boundary is going to be the same. Like, everybody's going to feel the same about what is a divine relationship. So we're all different. We all have different boundaries. We all have different feelings about relationships. So then the number one thing is to talk about that early on, because there will be somebody out there who feels the same way about boundaries as you do. And that's when it, becomes a divine relationship, is when you're able to connect with each other and honor each other's boundaries, and both feel mutual joy from that.
Yeah, I think that that's a good addition to a divine relationship too, is like you want to find somebody that wants to explore life and relationships like you. And not everybody is going to be on that same level. But from my personal experience, I've had a lot of success with like holding space for like in a partner. If I want to experience something, being able to communicate that, and also being willing to allow like them to experience it. Or like in our relationship, we've had a lot of just holding that balance. Like if I want to be able to have friends that are guys, like most of my friends are guys, why wouldn't I want to allow you to have friends that are girls too, especially if like they're understanding you and communicating in a respectful way and respecting the relationship's boundaries. Like that's always been a big thing that I've seen have happen. And even my previous relationships where it was like somebody didn't want me to be friends with someone just because of their gender. And it's like, they're not a threat to the relationship, and being able to navigate our relationship should be, on us, not who else I'm communicating with. I just thought that was an interesting thing that maybe should be brought up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Communication is huge. So that's one thing that I was really bad at, because most of my relationships lasted 2 weeks. And part of it was because I just grew up with unhealthy habits and perspectives on relationships. Like my parents got divorced really early on. That was not a healthy relationship. My mom got married like 5 or 6 times after that while I was traveling around with her. And most of them were really, terrible, to be honest with you. Physical, violent, like just really, it was a bad situation. So, I grew up seeing that kind of relationship and unconsciously emanating bad behaviors with relationships. And so, coming here, meeting you, I wasn't ready for a relationship, but we started off as a friendship, and it slowly grew, and you helped me to talk about a lot of trauma that I've been through. You've helped me to understand communication is really important. You've helped me to learn how to set healthy boundaries and how to hold space for each other to grow. And I feel like we've grown a lot in these 6 to 7 years together. And because we've been able to talk about the things, even if it's been really hard, like we've had some rough conversations. We've had a lot of emotional conversations, but because we've had them, we've grown a lot, and now we have a lot deeper understanding of each other because of those conversations.
Right. And if you don't have those conversations, you're really just never going to know. And it goes back to that vulnerability. Like divine relationships are a lot of vulnerability. It's being willing to talk about the hard stuff and being willing to unconditionally love somebody and work through it. And you can unconditionally love them and decide, you don't want to be in an intimate relationship anymore, but still care for them and understand that there was like some sort of soul contract or lesson that you learned from that connection. And I think that, it's really important to just hold space for the changes too. And again, like you never know what's going to come up or what's going to change or how a relationship's going to need to shift. When you first came here, I too was not looking for a relationship. In fact, I was just coming to terms with the fact that I was also living kind of in my mother's shadow, because when she was alive, she was with my dad my whole life, and she hadn't had a whole lot of other experience, but she was in the savior mentality. She thought she needed to save somebody, and she stayed with my dad thinking he would change. And I went through several relationships thinking, like I'm in this because I want to help this person. If I leave, then, what are they going to be without like our connection? And they need me to support them. And it was very codependent. Mm-hmm. And with you, it was different. There was nothing that I wanted to save. Instead, I was inspired by your project, the Bring Me to Life project that we've like grown together. And I was just like, I wanted to cheer you on and be more of a cheerleader than like a energetic or emotional nurse that was like trying to fix you. Mm. And that was powerful to just want to cheer somebody on and see them succeed and watch you grow over the years has been such a interesting and fun ride.
We want to help. It's a innate human thing. It's in our nature to want to help other people. But everybody, their own well-being is their responsibility. And if you go into especially a romantic relationship where you know somebody's hurt and broken and you're sharing sacred energy with each other and being intimate and all those things, like, that can be really hard on you, because if you're the only one with the high vibe, if you're the only one like adding energy into the relationship, then it's not going to work out. A divine relationship is one where the energy is balanced, where, you know, some days you're down and I lift you up. Some days I'm down and you lift me up. But it's not like you said something that we have to fix within each other. And that balance of energy is just super important in divine relationships.
And, you know, I mean, there's definitely been days where we've both been down, but rather than, you know, taking it out on each other, we try to find ways to inspire and like remember that we've been through a lot. I mean, when you first got here, I was going through my adopted grandmother, who was like my basic caregiver, my like role model. She had cancer and she was basically dying, and you kind of swooped in and saw that and kind of witnessed my emotional turmoil pretty early on in our relationship, but you like stayed through it and held space for that. And I know within like just a couple weeks or months of meeting me, I was a completely different person than the person you originally met. And you just seemed like you were willing to like grow and flow with that. And I thought that was really powerful. And I think that's important to really talk on, is like, no one is going to be just like they are when you first meet them, because there is that like honeymoon period where you're just like fascinated with a person's energy, especially if it's a divine connection and you're like, wow, I'm finally like seeing you in this realm. Like, I've felt this connection like in my head or like in my heart, but meeting you in person is different, because, you know, sometimes you just vibe with a person like that, but they go on an emotional roller coaster, or they have something that comes up, maybe more mentally or even physically. We've been together through several different like body changes and just like appreciating each other's bodies in new ways, and just health situations and life scares and things like that, as well as our workload or our work passions and how that's changed. Like, we've owned a shop, we've owned wellness centers together. We've both just been entrepreneurs. We've both had jobs. Like, we worked at a photography studio together. We've had muggle jobs together. We've had mystical jobs together. Like, things change and emotions change and your programming changes and everything. Like, the way you eat and take over like household chores changes. Like, there's a time where like I cooked all the time and you only washed dishes. And then there was time you only cooked and I had to wash. And like, we found balances through all the chores, and like things change. And I think that's good, because that means that you're evolving together.
Definitely. All those hard times, those hard discussions, they lead to growth. And that's what is so beautiful about being in a divine relationship with yourself, with another person, is, you know, having that growth happen. It's really nice to see, like, just how far we've come from the time we met. And one thing that I thought was kind of interesting about our relationship is that, you know, we didn't start off with that, like, I don't know, that like immediate, we have to kiss and hug and be romantic right away. It was more like, you seem really cool, let's talk and make jewelry and do all the fun things. Because I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. I was so against being in a relationship. I was like, I'm never going to be in a relationship again.
I was kind of at that point too. I was just like frustrated, and I just wanted to be in a relationship with myself, and I just wanted to, but I also really wanted friends. Like, I wanted cool spiritual friends. I was like on this mission to find friends that were going to grow with me and not think I was super too weird or too woo, because I was like getting into some deep spiritual stuff.
Yeah, we
And
love it. We get in it.
and then you like appeared and you're like connecting with like Merlin energy and like crystals and like just vibing with the same kind of music I was like getting into. And it was like, okay, this is awesome. I found some friends that are like on my level. And yeah, it kind of just, what is a roller coaster from there. But I do want to get back to a discussion I had a note on about like bodies and boundaries. I think that that's an important discussion to have when navigating divine relationships, because, you know, people's bodies change through relationships, and sometimes like boundaries change. Sometimes the consent changes, and consent's a huge topic. Because like you said, when we first started navigating our relationship, we weren't trying to be super intimate. It kind of like just happened. And I think we personally fought it a little bit. We were like, is this really the path we want to go down? Like, we have a really good friendship going here. But it was a little bit more natural. And I think because it was more natural, there was less pressure put on it. Like, it was still scary and vulnerable, but there wasn't this expectation. And we learned about a lot of consent with each other too, because, you know, like, I was still very uncomfortable with my body, and intimacy is all about like how you're seeing yourself too. Like, if you can't see yourself and love yourself and start to like learn how to navigate your own body, it's really hard to show up for another being on a divine level. Or that's when that kind of like icky sexual vibe happens, where you're like, am I really into this? Like, did I just mix my energy in the wrong space? Like, I feel like that comes from not knowing what you truly want and how you want your boundaries to be respected. And just the way you've been able to hold space for me through my body changes. Like, I've been through several different health situations where like there were times I wanted to be super intimate. And then there's times where I'm like, I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be kissed. I don't want to like, it's like just hard. And my bubble just, my outer shell just kind of goes up. And for you going on that roller coaster, like, okay, she wants to be really intimate right now. Okay, now she doesn't want to be touched at all. Like, I know I'm not the only woman who does that to men. So it's really important, I think, to just be open to the communication too. Like, when I'm telling you like, hey, I'm just not in a space for that kind of connection right now. You've really had a mystical power about being like, okay, I'm going to hold space for her to work through whatever she's working through.
Whatever feeling I might feel, I honor how you feel, and I want that to be good to you, you know. And it's oftentimes like I'll be like, okay, and then I'll turn off my, you know, sexual energy. I'll just be like, boop, fine, then I don't want to do anything. And then as soon as I like make that choice, then you get a little more like open to it, and then it's like, okay,
right. But it's been nice not really ever having to worry about, you know, like our security in a relationship either. Like, because we've had open communication, like if you find somebody like attractive or you're like intrigued by them, you find ways to be like, that person intrigues me. And it's kind of interesting to me as your partner, because then I get to be like, okay, so those are the kind of things he's into, or this or that or the other. But I've never been like full on afraid you were gonna like leave me or cheat on me, because I'm like, my body just can't right now, because I've had a lot of sexual trauma. I've had a lot of emotional and mental trauma and abuse. So that's a really common thing in this day and age, especially for women, but also for men, to have just experienced traumatic things. And sometimes the grieving process or the releasing process of those happenings, it isn't linear. It's not just like, oh, it's done. Like they sometimes creep back up, and you have emotions you gotta like face with them. Like, you can be all good for like a couple years, and then all of a sudden something happens and you're like really feeling those feels about something that happened to you when you were a child. And having a partner you can communicate that with and be like, this is how I'm feeling right now. It probably won't feel like this in a couple weeks, but if you can just hold space for me to like figure it out, it's really powerful. And to not be afraid that you're going to dip out and go find something else. And that time of healing for me is, I think, a really key part of our divine relationship, at least.
Mm-hmm. And we're able to figure those things out and navigate through them because of talking about them and just making sure we know how each other feels about everything. And, even if it's hard to say it, it's better to say how you feel and to be honest and to try and do your best to communicate so that, you don't have that inside of yourself building up. You leave it to God, you leave it to the universe, to life to sort out, because I believe that as long as you do your best, you say what you feel, you do your best to communicate, you do your best to live life, then everything's going to work out. As long as you continue to do your best, continue to communicate as best as you can, and try to honor people and their boundaries, and everything will work out.
Definitely. Yeah. I want to go back to the intimacy thing for a second too, and kind of touch on how it doesn't have to all be about sex and romantic connections and the spicy connection. It's also super important to, again, show up for yourself and your partner and just be more in your own divinity and how you want to be presented, and aware of your confidence levels and who you are. And that's how I think you find that like spicy balance, when you're able to be super confident in your own being, because you then inspire your partner to be confident in their being, and like also telling your partner what you do like about, their connections. There was something I learned too that was like using the I would love if statements versus like blame or like frustrated statements. So like telling your partner things that you love about them or you would appreciate, rather than what you can't stand, is
like doing the dishes.
Yeah, it's like a super powerful thing. Like doing the dishes is like an example I've heard a lot. Like, instead of being like, I can't believe you never do anything around the house. You never do the dishes. You never take out the trash. And like, let me just say that is not the case here. CeeLo does the dishes and takes out the trash almost every day.
It takes a lot of time.
There's a lot of dishes. But just as an example, like if you're like really frustrated at your partner and you're like, man, you never do the dishes. Instead being like, it'd be really awesome. I would really love if you could just do the dishes once in a while, and say it in like a loving tone, not in like a sassy tone. Like, I would just love it if you did the dishes. Like that's not going to nourish the relationship. Relationships.
I would just do the dishes.
Like how your face looks and like the attitude you put in.
You know what I would love? If you did the dishes.
If you didn't use that voice. I would love it if you didn't use that tone. No, but for real though, like using I love statements and doing it in a loving way versus like I can't believe or I can't stand kind of discussion. Because you have to think about it, like a relationship is kind of like a garden, and it takes nourishment to grow. If a plant is frustrated and dying and not happy, you're not going to go out there and tell it how much you hate it and stomp around it and not give it any water. Instead, you're going to like nourish it and tell it how much you love it and give it more water.
Hopefully.
And watch it blossom. If you want it to give you fruit and to nourish you back and to be a healthy garden, you're going to tell it how much you love it. Mm-hmm. So why not tell your partners like how much you love them? Mm-hmm. And like do it randomly too. Like you don't have to do it just because they did something for you. Like it's important. Sometimes like you'll just wake up and you'll just be like, you'll not only just say like I love you, you'll just like be like I love the way you smile, or something little. It can light up your partner's whole freaking day, especially if they're just having a rough one.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the other day, CeeLo brought me some water and a banana so that I would wake up in time for his meditation. And, those little things, that's really powerful. Like, who knew that you would fall in love with somebody who would bring you a cup of water and a banana in the morning?
I mean, it's important to get your water, to get like, especially if you're not going to get out of bed for a while, like get a little some nutrition in your tummy.
And I mean a real banana, guys. I'm not making some sort of metaphor here.
Yeah, no. I like what you said there. Also, I remember one time we did a ceremony where we said like 5 things that we enjoyed about each other and 5 things that we thought each other could improve upon. And I thought that was a good way to communicate and a good way to kind of navigate through things that we thought each other could grow in.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good way too, especially because I can be more sensitive to criticism. It's my Leo coming out. But I try really hard to hold space for it. So I always tell you to not take my face's first reaction, to like let me process it. But the putting like something you really love kind of sandwiched in with something you would like to see change or that irritates you, sandwiched with, but I also love this. It like cushions the conversation. And also you're holding space because you're going back and forth. So like you're not just saying everything you need from your partner, but you're also holding space for them to tell you what they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mutual thing. Yeah, mutual joy, mutual. I can't think of the word, but just having this mutual attraction to each other and mutual like understanding and having just a balanced relationship is really really powerful thing. So doing it that way, where I'll say one thing, you'll say one thing, and we'll keep going back and forth. That's a great way to find balance. And I thought it was really nice. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a powerful little ritual. I enjoyed it too. Cool. I feel like we've talked about a lot of different topics, and I'm excited to keep this discussion rolling. We have a couple more episodes we're going to be doing too, on divine relationships. In the upcoming discussions, we're going to talk about evolving a little bit more. I know we talked about that a lot tonight too, but maybe some more communication techniques and like boundaries and how we've worked through them. And we'll also be talking more about triggers and, space for life experiences. If people are open to it, we'll talk about a little bit more of like intimacy and spicy things, but we might also save that for Patreon, which we're hoping to get rolling, but it's a process.
Yeah, technology is a thing in business and relationships where it doesn't always work out. The first time it doesn't always work out when you give it your first go. Sometimes you'll do something and it will just kind of like disappear, and you'll be like, I spent a lot of time doing that and now it's just gone. But that's part of life, and just keep going, because maybe it's a test to see how committed you are to your dreams or your divine relationship.
Yeah, I think it's funny because usually you're the tech person. Sometimes I'm like real frustrated and trying to get something to work, and you'll just like step into the room and it'll just work magically. But then there's certain times like you'll be looking for something for a long time, and then I'll just look for it once and it'll be exactly where we thought it was, but you like couldn't see it no matter what. So it's always funny how like there's a balance, and your partner might be better at some things than you, and that's okay. That's part of the finding the boundaries too, and like honoring each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. It works out.
Yeah.
It works out when you're in a divine whatever. It works out. Yeah. It works.
Divine
out.
Partnerships. It's
a partnership.
Because you're creating and collabing and witnessing and growing. Like partnerships are, to me, they grow and they expand and they evolve. So cool deal. Exactly. I feel like we should maybe end this out with a little meditation. I do want to say there's a couple other people in the community that are doing some divine relationship discussion. I think there's a few other podcasts on the Bring Me to Life network that are doing some divine discussions this month. Yeah. I know Paradigm Shift is doing a discussion this week on like soulmates and like the soul relationship
Sacred
connection.
unions, divine unions. Yep. Yeah, it sounds like a great topic, and Brendan from Paradigm Shift's been talking a lot about self-love and been doing some self-love meditations and whatnot, and I love that. Like, I've been trying to have more self-love this Valentine's season, because I think that's really underrated during this time, because people just see partnership everywhere, and people being couples, and if they're single, then they're like, but I think self-love is so underrated at this time of the year. So,
well, I think it's because there's a lot of energy that's focused around the intimacy with others. But I think self-love is really important because intimacy starts with you. I heard something and it was like intimacy broke down as into me, I see. And when you give yourself that time for self-love,
Yeah.
into me, I see is what it was. Like that self-love gives you the time to see into yourself, to really find what it is you want in a relationship. Because, you know, a lot of my relationships that failed, or not even failed, but like I grew apart from, it was because I didn't really know what I wanted and I wasn't willing to see into myself and to step up to the plate to what I needed to be and to be able to witness myself to be a complete partner for someone else, because we're not each other's halves. We're each other's wholes that can show up and cheer each other on. Mm-hmm. There's like a Heartworks song that I love that's about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Heartworks, and I love that part of the song where they say like, you are my other whole. And I mean, I don't blame people for being like your other half and whatnot. I mean, that's how it's been for so long, but I think this generation is really waking up to the fact that we're already whole by ourselves. We have that masculine and feminine balance within ourselves already. And you know, so we're not one half of somebody else. We're a whole of ourselves. Like flames, you know? We're a whole flame. Just coming together and make a little bit bigger flame.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thanks for having this discussion with me and helping light up the world.
Yeah, thank you for putting it on and being a great partner and for leading the meditation that we're about to enjoy.
Ooh, you're going to have me lead the meditation?
You said something about meditation.
I can do it. Do you think...
And she was like, you can lead it if you want to, but I'm like, I have no idea what you're even talking about. I'm just going to let you do it.
I will channel a meditation for us all. If maybe you can try to find the Heartworks song while I do it. Is that a challenge? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe we can all have a little Heartworks dance party if it works. You know, technology. We're in Mercury retrograde. We'll see how this goes. All right. So while I put CeeLo on the Heartworks challenge, I want you all to get comfortable if you can, because we're going to do a quick little meditation on establishing healthy boundaries in navigating relationships. And I like to first just breathe, you know, get kind of cozy where you're at. And this is a meditation for you whether or not you're in a relationship, because boundaries are important no matter where you're at in life. So as we breathe, let's all connect together through time and space and send each other some love and some support, knowing that you're not alone in this journey of figuring out boundaries and figuring out love. Love is such a journey, especially divine love. So I want you to think about that for a second. What is divine love to you? Maybe it's having somebody that can witness you in your full authentic self. Maybe you're very specific in your love language and what you want in your life and your journey. You're looking for a partner or a friend that can be there through that and again witness that and be there for you. And as you start to get this idea of what divine love is to you, I want you to really breathe into it. Because the more you breathe into it and you allow yourself to explore it, the easier it's going to be to call it to you or to bring a balance into your current relationship or future relationship with yourself or with others. And I want you to take a second and think about your boundaries. What is the limit for you? And not only what is the limit for you, but how do you want to be respected? How do you want to be loved? Because knowing how you want to be loved is really important. It's how you can set those boundaries and also set the vibration of your frequency so that your partner, your friends, your family, the people you communicate with, know how to interact with you. When you set those boundaries, you set the standard for how you wish to be seen in the world. And in return, you begin to radiate this, and you treat others how you want to be treated. And sometimes that means just respecting their boundaries too, because you want your boundaries to be respected. And you want to be heard, you want to be seen within all your relationships. Navigating your boundaries is so powerful. And knowing how to communicate them is even more powerful. I want you to breathe into those boundaries for a moment, in that vulnerability, and acknowledging that we all have boundaries and they're all very, very different. And I want you to know that there are people out there that are willing to meet you on your level and to respect and honor your boundaries. There is somebody out there that wants to grow with you. Some of us want a more intimate and physical connection, where some of us want a more intellectual connection. And that's okay. There are all kinds of divine relationships, but the first step is communicating your boundaries and showing up for yourself and witnessing what it is you need in a partnership. I'm going to give you a moment to, again, think about that and really integrate that into your being. And as you come to terms with what it is you need in a partnership, I want you to breathe deeply into that. Think about how you want to feel to be loved in the way that feels most good to you in your heart and your soul. And as you release your breaths, if you can, try to really feel the emotion. I often like to try to smile, because I know that's a deep emotion and an expression that I can feel with my body. To smile knowing that there is someone out there that can be my other whole. Be it in a friend, in a divine partner, or even just holding space for friends and family members that you already are in contact with, to see you and witness you and to honor those boundaries. And try to just feel into the joy that it would be to have those boundaries and those needs met. Not with an expectation, but with just the flow of life, and that it is all possible to be so if you can communicate it and you can hold strong to your own boundaries. And show up for yourself as much as you show up for others. Call in that kind of love. And we're going to round up the meditation here in just another moment, but I really want you to feel it. I want you to feel loved, and if you feel guided, hug yourself, love yourself. Move your body around and really move that energy around. I like to wiggle. Wiggling helps me get my energy all integrated, and when I speak or meditate on something into my life, that wiggling, it just helps me remind me that I can integrate that into my being. I want you to integrate that amount of love that you deserve into your whole being. Give yourself the hug you need or the space you need. And when you're ready, take one nice last deep breath. Bring in all that love. And exhale any sense of expectation or doubt that it's not possible. And remember that anything is possible. And you can rise in love, and we can all rise in love together. And you can open your eyes. You can join me back here in the present. And you can again wiggle that in and bring in that love.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
And we're gonna have a little kind of like dance party. I think it's good to end it out on a high note. So I hope you enjoyed that meditation. And we're going to jam out to a song by Heartworks called Rise in Love. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That is one of many amazing songs by Heartworks.
Yeah, I thought it was the one, but I don't think it was.
That's okay. That just means we're
You're
going
my other hole.
to have to play some more Heartworks for you in the future. You can also check out more music at bringmetolife.com/radio. We have some playlists there by different genres. Several of them have heartworks on them because I love them a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so I failed that challenge, but because we're in a divine relationship, you still love me, right?
Yeah, I was still proud of you for getting some heartworks on so we could have a little dance party. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope you check out some more music on Bring Me to Life Radio. Lots of free playlists there, lots of high vibe musicians that we love, and we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you check out last week if you missed it, and next week if you can make it. And until next time,
stay awake
and shine on always. For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, that's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.